Yo, what up? This is in response to John Reagan 1. I did a video called Scream, which I'll put the link up in the description, right? And you can go watch it. It's a minute and a half. It's just kind of, I just kind of sampled a bunch of different things and put it together, and it was like my minute and a half commentary on American news media. And John Reagan number 1 did a video in response to that. This is in response to that. So go watch John's. The premise of John's video was, or at least there were lots of premises, but the premises that I'm going to talk about are media, Michael Jackson, and the priority of our news outlets to prioritize this. And I'm gonna, first I'm gonna show you this. Okay, this is last week's Newsweek in Europe. This is last week's Newsweek in Asia. This is last week's Newsweek in Latin America. And last but not least, this is last week's Newsweek in the United States. Knows the difference? So, I guess what I'm getting at is that Michael Jackson transcended culture, nations. He was probably one of the better known personalities alive. People all over the world know who he was. So yeah, it was a big news story. It's not my point. Point is, I put that video up yesterday, and here we are 2 weeks into it. And it really shouldn't be the top story anymore. And I guess this is what got me, John, the most. It was the timing of it, right? And it like bugged me, but it began bugging me a little more when I saw somebody actually ask the President of the United States what he thought about it, which just blew my mind. I'm sure Obama was just like putting his hands in his face going, why the fuck are they asking me about Michael Jackson? I'm trying to run the fucking country here. So, anyway, and not that I'm sure Obama wasn't concerned or probably didn't like Michael Jackson. I'm just saying that, we're gonna get so much FaceTime with the president one-on-one in an interview. Don't waste my fucking time asking the president what he thinks about Michael Jackson. First of all. Second of all, there are students that are still protesting in the streets and still risking their lives to get videos out. And the news, Iran was happening. And you mentioned something, John. You said Michael Jackson's death, it was an amazing moment because the entire world kind of, held hands and humanity celebrated this man's life. Now, we can go back and forth about Michael Jackson, the man. It doesn't really matter. He was a genius at what he did. His art form transcended everything. Culture, differences, everything. I'm trying to do this and not make it sound so harsh, like a human being's death isn't important, because it is. Any human being that dies is important, and especially somebody that so many people knew and loved their art. I get that. I get why it was a big story 2 weeks ago. But here we were. We saw the best and worst of not just media, but social media. We saw the best and worst of it a month ago. We saw the best of it. We saw the world rally around through mass communications for a group of people that have the right to protest and express themselves. Period. Even if they were wrong, even if they did lose the election, regardless. And it also gave us an opportunity as a nation, and not just a nation, but as a world community, to evaluate and assess the situation in Iran, minus everything else. It gave us the opportunity to learn something about them, their system, how it works, who's really in charge. So it was also a pretty amazing opportunity to assess the enemy, bottom line, or the ally, depending on what perspective it was. But we got to look inside Iran in a way that we've never really got the opportunity to do so. So we have this opportunity. We got them up against the ropes. we got this crazy genocide-denying fucking president who's a spokesman for these group of half-nutty, Stone Age mentality Amans, right? And we had the opportunity to kind of pin him in a corner and say, hey, women's suffrage, what the fuck you guys doing? And these people have the right to protest, and you don't have the right to lock them up without due process, or, and, we had that opportunity, then Michael Jackson died. And I understand that's big news. And Pharaoh dying was big news for like Larry King, or Entertainment Tonight, or even Jon Stewart. But when a major event's happening, and at the same time we're having ethnic violence, where the Chinese are doing a pretty good job of suppressing human rights in their western provinces in this ethnic struggle. It's pretty obvious, what's happening there. It's not good for anybody. The Uyghurs, or the Han that live there, the ethnic Han that live there, or the Chinese government. This isn't any fun, or the local authorities. These are things that we should be discussing as a world community, and that's what news is supposed to be. So, John, I get what you're saying. I really do. We have MTV, and MTV2, and MTV3, and MTV Blues, and MTV VH1 Adult. And, we have hundreds of media outlets, not just online, but on our cable or whatever, satellites. We have every opportunity to go celebrate the guy's life, or go watch the freak show. And I think maybe you painted a little bit of a rosy picture there, because a lot of people, John, are like you and are celebrating the man and his art. A lot of people like the fucking freak show. And there are some people that go by a train wreck. Everybody stops and looks, even though you don't want to. It's like a train wreck. You're like, I don't want to look, and you still look. And you look, or a car accident, right? And you go, oh, why'd I look? But there are some people that go, wow, he's really... there are some people that get off on the freak show. And a big part of Michael Jackson, who he was, and his mystique, was that freak show. And a lot of people want to see that he was a junkie, and want him to hurt. I've heard some people say he's dead. There were a lot of weird things about the dude, to say the least. And we don't know what's true and what's not. And we never will. And there's a lot of legend that goes on with, a person who's just human like you and I, really, in the end. And, as much as I do believe in celebrating his art, I don't really think we should be spending 2 weeks top stories when there's some major things happening, and we as a world community should be talking about these things. Well, Michael Jackson and John, when it comes to the international press, with the exception of maybe the BBC and stuff, they don't really talk about it that much. Yeah, kinda. But, like, in the style section, or whatever, first couple days, but, you're not going to international press, so on the front page, anybody gives a shit who gets custody of Michael Jackson kids, who are his kids or aren't his kids. Like that was some big fucking surprise. Oh, really? Really? They're not Michael's kids? You mean those white kids with blue eyes aren't Michael's kids? Like, duh. The Punnett Square only works so many ways, and, Michael ain't gonna have blue-eyed kids. Well, he's got blue eyes in his family. What I've seen, I haven't seen any indication that blue eyes run in the Jackson family. So, unless of course, like, they're wearing contacts or whatever, they got blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? Fake noses and shit. Michael Jackson was cool. Thriller was cool, and Billie Jean. I remember all that shit. I was in high school when all that shit came out. It was cool. Vincent Price and Eddie Van Halen, Paul McCartney. What a rockin' fucking album, And then he got fucking weird, dude. I don't know what happened, man, but the Bones and fucking Elephant Man and the Monkey and Webster, and the Oxygen Tank, and the Glove, it all got so weird, and so weird, dude. And I just think that the ethnic violence of Zhejiang is more important and should be top stories, like, within a couple days of his death. That's all. And I got a question for you. Do you think, John, when Weird Al Yankovic dies, do you, do you think they'll do a parody of Michael Jackson's memorial service? Because I think it's Weird Al. I think that's how he's gonna want to go out. He's doing a parody of Michael Jackson's funeral. So, and I do believe, as an Elvis fan, that when Michael Jackson died, if there's an afterlife, Elvis was waiting for him, and he whooped his ass. It's just a guess. Yeah. Come here, boy. I want to talk to you about marrying my daughter.